AccuWeather Alert.
Good morning. I am Monica Melpass, and this is an AccuWeather Alert for you on a Saturday. The Delaware Valley is under a winter weather advisory this morning. Let's go right now and take a live look at City Line Avenue. The snow started falling about 4 a.m. this morning, a couple of hours ago. It was falling pretty thick and fast, and right now you see some is still falling at this hour. There is about an inch, a half an inch to an inch on the ground, and there is some on the roadways. This is City Line itself. You can see a coating of something there. It is starting to melt a little as it hits the roadway. Of course, Action News will be on the air for you throughout the morning, throughout the viewing area, showing you different highways and byways, the bridges, and telling you accident reports, also giving you the latest weather, of course. And speaking of which, let's go right outside to Cecily Tynan. She has the latest from AccuWeather on what we can expect throughout the morning. Good morning, Cecily.
Well, good morning, Monica. As you mentioned, the snow did start in the Philadelphia area at about 4 o'clock this morning, west of the city, closer to 3:30, and we have several more hours of snow before this will change to sleet and then to rain. Let's show you action radar, and you can see that we do have a broad area of rain pretty much all over the Delaware Valley and west of the Delaware Valley. Put this into motion, and we had increasing clouds throughout the night. Then early this morning it all began to snow, and as this moves into motion, you can see how it is working up toward the northeast. Now, most of this will be changing to rain over in Atlantic City, but here we do have snow and some of the roadways are already coated. So the best thing to do for the next couple of hours is just to stay in. It is mostly snow, as you can see. Down as you move into the Virginias, it changes to a mixture of snow and rain. Then over the Carolinas, mostly rain, and probably by about 9 o'clock this morning, we'll be getting some sleet. Then by noon, rain, and then this afternoon things should begin to clear out. But we have a lot of very cold air behind the system. This is winter about 2 weeks ahead of schedule, and it is snowing over at the airport right now and the shore. Live, I think we can go to Sky 6, and you can see how over at the airport the snow is falling. The runways are pretty much coated with snow, and it's chilly out here as well. Currently at the airport, we're checking in at 29 degrees. Humidity is 100%. That's why it's snowing. Barometer 30.26 and falling. Now with the wind chill, 18 degrees, so it's feeling very chilly outside, and it will not be warming up much until later on this afternoon. This afternoon will probably be heating up to about 41 degrees, but in the meantime, we're expecting snow. Now in the Philadelphia area and in central Delaware and parts of New Jersey, not the coast, this morning we'll get about 1 to 3 inches of snow. Then by about 9 o'clock, it'll start to change to sleet. I think by noon, it'll be rain. Now our late afternoon high about 41 degrees, but then getting very cool. In other parts of the viewing area, central Delaware, probably about an inch or less of snow this morning. Then by 9, we think it'll change to sleet and rain. If you are at the coast, because there's a lot of very warm air, expecting mostly rain, a dusting of snow this morning, and then turning to rain. Now, once the snow stops and everything begins to melt, we're really not out of the woods yet because it's going to be very cool tonight. The wind chills tonight down below 0. That means that anything that melted on the roadways, any slush, will be turning to ice, so you want to be careful tonight. A good idea to just stay off the roads. Then tomorrow, bitter cold behind the system, wind chills down to about 0. It will be clearing out tomorrow, but if you're planning on going to the Eagles game, you want to wear just about anything you have because it's going to be bitter cold. But out here, as you can see, it is snowing already. Some cars on the roadways. Right now, it looks like most people are taking it pretty easy, and we'll keep you updated on the situation as the snow continues falling across the Delaware Valley. Back to you in the studio, Monica.
All right, thank you, Cecily. Of course, this being a Saturday morning, there is no normal morning rush hour. However, lots of folks will be hitting the roads, especially later in the morning for holiday shopping, and we will pass on any shopping notes or traffic notes in those areas for you later on. We do want to get a check on the highways, though, and PennDOT's Gene Blum joins us live by telephone to give us an update on the salting and sanding going on. Good morning, Gene.
Good morning, Monica.
I know you have crews spread around the area. Give us sort of a rundown, if you will.
Sure, Monica. Throughout the 5-county Philadelphia region at this point, PennDOT has 350 trucks out spreading salt and cinders along the highways. Initially, we're concentrating on the interstate highways, limited access highways such as 202, 309, 422, and the major traffic routes.
At this point, are you seeing any accidents or having any problems getting your supplies out?
No problem at all getting the trucks out. All the crews were in by about 4 a.m. this morning, and the trucks have been out salting. No, there's been no trouble. from I understand, there are some scattered accidents, but the salt is being put down right now. The one thing that will certainly help is when the temperatures do rise a bit, and when some traffic gets on the road, because traffic really is helpful in working the salt into the snow and for the melting of the salt.
We're looking live right now at our City Line Avenue picture just to show folks a generic sense of the traffic in this area at least. Let me ask you this, Gene. Given the normal course of affairs in the winter, what level of alert did you put your staffers on last night when you knew the storm had been predicted?
This was what we call a full call-out, Monica. When the crew, by the time most of the men and workers went home late yesterday afternoon, all the snow plows were on the trucks, all the spreaders were on the trucks, and everyone was to report based on the forecast last night and early this morning by 4 a.m. this morning. So all the trucks were out as the snow was coming down.
All right, very good. Thank you, Gene Blum from PennDOT. We'll be talking to you again later in the morning. Right now, let's go live to David Murphy. He is at 202 in the King of Prussia area with an update on the situation there. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Monica. We're out here in front of the King of Prussia Mall. No doubt a destination, at least hopefully, for a number of people today as they continue their holiday shopping. And right now on 202, probably this is one of the best roads that we've seen so far today. A lot of blacktop showing through, basically wet. In fact, let me step out and let's take a look. Very light traffic at this hour, but as you can see, pretty much a lane and a half, maybe 2 full lanes of blacktop showing through and basically wet conditions, although in the shoulder there is snow sitting on the ground. And we've noticed on other highways that we've traveled to get here just within the last half hour or so. Highways like the Schuylkill Expressway out of Montgomery County, the Blue Route down through Delaware County, still a lot of snow-covered areas. And the main thing I think we have to warn people about right now is the overpasses. They are snow-covered and icy in a lot of cases. Take a look at some video. The salt trucks, as you've heard, have been out for quite a lot. This is Route 30 in and around Paoli. And the salt trucks have been out, as you heard, since very early this morning when the snow started around 4 or so. And they have done a pretty good job, and particularly on some of the secondary roads we've noticed, not only on PennDOT highways, but on secondary roads that are either PennDOT or municipal. They've done a pretty good job so far of staying ahead of the ice and snow in terms of the stopping areas around stoplights and what have you. A lot of nice blacktop showing for you when you have to stop at stoplights, although there was one spot on Route 3 that I noted right around the traffic lights coming up to the entrance to the Blue Route where you have to brake on an overpass, and I saw a couple of cars fishtailing as they tried to brake on that overpass. So again, I think right now we have to tell people mostly to be careful of overpasses, and obviously anytime that you're in and around areas with a fair amount of traffic, you have to be careful too. Now on the expressway, I'd say 35 miles per hour, a half hour ago anyway, was about what you could do safely. A lot of people were exceeding that. And as you're doing 35 and somebody's coming up behind you, it makes you a little bit nervous, and you could see cars sort of getting over, getting out of people's way, and maybe getting a little bit further onto the snowy shoulder than they ought to. And I guess the word of caution on the main roads, even if you do find that you can get along at 30, 35 miles an hour right now, you definitely want to keep it to that and not nerve other people or unnerve other people into going onto the snow and getting a little bit too slippery and sliding around out there. Some snow-covered conditions, but a lot of blacktop showing through right now on the main roads. The secondary roads, that's a different story. The roads that have not been salted are very slick right now. And even on roads like this, if you hit an overpass, you're liable to run into trouble. Obviously, if you don't have to go out this morning just yet, you probably ought to give this another few hours, Monica, just to see how this snow and the weather conditions have a chance to play out. David Murphy live with the Action Cam in King of Prussia.
All right, thank you, David. In fact, you mentioned the secondary roads. My drive-in was okay on the highways, but on the roads right near our house, it was a little slippery, so I put on the brakes and slid around a little bit. Just be aware you could fishtail here and there where they have not salted, as David mentioned. Let's go live now to Mark Pesch at the airport.
We'll change it over freezing rain and perhaps rain for places like New York and Boston throughout the day. So snow changing over to rain as low pressure creeps northeast along the coast. It will be very, very windy, too, behind the front, and, of course, those wind chills will make it feel much, much colder across the Tennessee Valley and parts of the southeast. So get ready. The cold air is a-coming for sure as high pressure builds in behind the surface front. Again, this is a system that will continue to move off the coast and low pressure kind of developing along it. Actually, these two systems will kind of merge. This one will start to break apart as the cold air kind of blends in, but low pressure pretty much stays in place along the front and then moves up to the northeast, and again changing some of this this snow over to rain, especially for the coastal areas and the big cities along the New England coast, from Philadelphia to Atlantic City, New York City, and even Boston. So tricky forecast in the next 12 to 24 hours, but of course we will watch the progression of this front and the progression of the area of low pressure for you hour by hour. So if you live in the Northeast, it's going to be fairly tricky today. We hope you'll tune into the Weather Channel periodically, and we'll let you know how things are developing and how the snow is changing over to freezing rain and then changing over to rain. Okay, we do anticipate all snow. The Adirondacks, as much as a foot can fall. Some of the ski resorts across northern New England, I'm sure, will be the biggest beneficiaries of this snowstorm. We've had the air cold enough, so snowmaking conditions have always been pretty good across northern New England since ski season began. But with this natural snow building in, that will just make for better surface conditions if you're skiing. Planning on skiing over the Northeast, the green, the white mountains of Vermont into New Hampshire can easily pick up a foot within the next 24 hours. Ski resorts out west, Charleston, South Carolina, but the farther north and west you go, the colder it gets. 4 degrees below zero, that's the current temperature in Chicago, 8 below in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and 11 below in International Falls and Bismarck, of course, Bismarck being in North Dakota. But the temperatures we will just totally forget about, because here's the real deal. When you factor in those winds, this is how it actually feels to the exposed skin. That means if you go outside without your gloves, without your scarves, without your hats, this is what you're going to have to deal with. So you definitely don't want to expose your skin today if you have to get out and about. It feels like 42 degrees below zero in Chicago, 45 below in Des Moines, Iowa, 40 below in Minneapolis, so very, very cold, dangerously cold wind chills building over the northern plains and the upper Mississippi Valley. Please protect yourself from these frigid conditions. Stay with us. Coming up in a moment, we'll check.
Several spots will be redeveloping throughout central and northern New England by later this afternoon. Shoppers beware if you're going to be traveling along Interstates 91, 87, anywhere throughout the big cities of Boston, Philly, and even New York. You'll be looking at some snow, probably a changeover briefly to rain before the cold air rushes in by later on this afternoon. Let's expand our snowy travel, show you some more. We'll be redeveloping over lower Michigan, all the way from Traverse City to around Gaylord. Big lake effect snow is likely later on tonight. It's going to be happening all day long throughout upper Michigan and also the Iron Range of northern Wisconsin. And watch out for some more wintry weather redeveloping as well throughout the northwest. Rainy conditions, freezing rain right now around Portland, becoming just plain rain this afternoon. Looks like some rain in the southeast, giving way to wind and much colder weather by early morning tomorrow. We'll have more on that developing story with Rick and Bruce coming up.